I had to raise about $1.8 million. Going into it, I was like, oh, I got this. I think 3 months before close, we raised about $1.1 million, which is pretty good for our first raise. And 2 years later, we actually returned 100% of investor principal, and we still have about 4 assets to sell. My goal over the next 5 to 10 years is I want to syndicate around 10,000 doors. I want to actively own 500 rental units. I want to help at least 10,000 people reach financial independence.
Health is energy. We have so many people that chase money at the expense of their health, and then they spend that money to try to regain that health.
Every single day feels like Groundhog Day. And you come home, you feel empty, you escape in the video games, you escape into anything you do to take that empty feeling away from you on the inside. But ultimately, the only way you're gonna escape that feeling is to take action towards your dream.
Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I am thrilled that you're here. And have a very interesting gentleman in here today. He's a player in the Boston market, actually Worcester market. I know I'm mispronouncing that, but my dad used to live up that way, and I try to pronounce it and screw it up every time. But I've got Andrew Freed. So Andrew runs a meetup in Worcester and other areas, I think, around Boston and New Hampshire, you said, and has 400 units, another 50 under contract. And I asked him what his outcome was for being on the show, and he said to add value, and I love that freaking answer. So welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me. I'm ecstatic to be here.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Well, why don't you do a much better job with the bio than I just did, okay. and just, where'd you come from? Is it real estate ever since you were born, or what'd you do before? Why real estate? And just kind of bring us current.
Yeah, I mean, so like many of your listeners, I really was sold the American dream growing up, right? Like I was sold, get a good education, get a good job, get a nice 6-figure salary, get a condo in a beautiful city, Boston. Like I did all that through my entire 20s, right? And come around COVID, I came home, and at the end of the day, I felt empty, right? I felt like I had so much more potential to give, right? And ultimately I was just escaping into vices, escaping into video games, into women, into booze, into anything I could to take my mind off of my goals, right? And then at that point, I found this beautiful book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I ate the purple pill, and it opened my eyes to the power of real estate. And at that point, my net worth was about $250,000. And I looked at it and I realized that 80% of it came from this condo that I bought 5 years ago. And it literally took me a decade to save up $50,000. And I was like, holy crap, maybe there's something to this real estate.
What were you doing? Forgive me to interrupt. What were you doing? Just out of curiosity, the skill set that you had.
So I was a certified project manager.
Okay.
So I actually worked at a research organization, and I really helped. I managed a portfolio of labs and managed their sort of grants. So it really set me up well to manage a real estate portfolio, because essentially when you're managing a bunch of different assets, you're more or less a portfolio manager.
That's right. Okay, no, that's great. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue. So you read the purple book. I love that. Haven't heard that one before. That's funny. So then what?
And then at that point, I definitely went down the BiggerPockets rabbit hole. I started listening to Brandon Turner, started listening to every single BiggerPockets podcast I could possibly get my hands on. Probably listened to about 700 to 800 hours of BiggerPockets podcast, read every single book I possibly can. And I just did the BiggerPocket recipe. While working my W-2, I became an investor focused agent. And essentially I decided that.
So you got licensed as a real estate agent just for the reason, just so you'd have access to the MLS, have the ability to flip houses, sell them, not to sell for other people, but to use it for your own investing.
Not exactly.
Okay, well, elaborate.
The reason why I actually got my license was because I started attending all these real estate meetups, and somebody who I wanted to be like owned about 500 doors in the area. He actually owned a brokerage, and I wanted him to be my mentor. So I wanted to provide him value. Okay. So I decided, I would actually become an agent on his team, bring him agent commissions, start a meetup in Worcester, which he didn't have a meetup in that area at that point, under his brand, and bring him value in the form of commission and increasing his brand, right? Okay. And in my head, I'm like, okay, if I'm bringing this guy so much value, he's going to really feel a need to take me under his wing. And that's exactly what he did, right? I more or less leaned into the concept of reciprocity. I just provided endless value, and he really took me under his wing to kind of help me grow my portfolio.
Listen, guys, you just got an incredible tip. His focus was adding value first without asking for anything. Did that, and by doing that, you absolutely trigger reciprocity, and it's a law that Hare Krishnas have used for years. They hand you a flower and you feel obligated to do something back.
Totally.
But you did it the right way. You actually added value. I love that. And so, now you're in hundreds of units. And you're also doing syndications instead of just buying for your own right. Have you been doing that for a while, or how long have you been doing syndications?
So I actually landed my first syndication in 2023.
Okay.
And that was after the point where I literally leveraged everything I had to buy as much real estate as I could. I got a HELOC. I took promissory notes. I took loans against my 401k. I got to about 30 doors, ran out of my own cash, but I had still all these amazing deals come my way.
Right.
And at that point, I ended up getting on the BiggerPockets podcast right at that moment. And I started to get some notoriety in my market. And somebody who I was masterminding with brought me a 69-unit portfolio in New Bedford, Massachusetts. My first deal, I've never raised capital before. I had to raise about $1.8 million.
Yeah, how'd that go? Scary as hell, wasn't it?
Going into it, I was like, I got this.
Yeah.
I thought I had it, right? However, come to realize I did not have it, right? So, I think 3 months before close, we raised about $1.1 million, which was pretty good for our first raise, right? Sure. As being my partner. Sure. But we were still $700,000 short, right? And this comes back to the idea of providing endless value. So at that point, we were not trending to get the capital we needed. However, my mentor does syndications, does joint ventures, knows a bunch of people with capital. So I approached him and I said, hey, we're running into a scenario. We need about $700,000 left. Can you help me out? He made 3 calls. He raised the remaining capital. We closed the deal.
Okay, so he came in as a co-GP then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He saved the day, right? And that was all a result of me providing value to him and him wanting to help me out.
Sure.
And 2 years later, we actually returned 100% of investor principal, and we still have about 4 assets to sell. So that syndication.
So this was in a fund.
This was a single asset syndication. However, we bought a 69-unit portfolio.
Got it. So you sold part of the portfolio. Okay, got it.
Exactly.
Okay, and returned capital, and you still got some assets left to sell. Nice.
Yep.
Nice. Good for you. Well, that timing worked out for you well. Did you get caught up in any of this adjustable rate debt in the last couple of years? Because I have personally. I'm dealing with it from an ex-partner, and it's a shit show. But I'm just curious if you have.
So thankfully I did avoid a lot of that adjustable rate.
Right. Bridge debt.
Yeah, bridge debt. Right. And that was a result of my actual business formula. So me and my partner, we specifically focus on value add multifamily, where we buy 20 to 30% discount on a price per unit basis. Right. However, we also buy in higher cap rate markets. So we're buying in an 8, 9, 10% cap rate market where the cap rate can support the interest.
So you're buying typically in the C class then, I would guess.
That's exactly correct. Yes.
Okay. And
combined with that, like, people hate on New England and Massachusetts specifically because it's tenant friendly, right? But there are so many benefits to Massachusetts in general. One of the main benefits is they have over 300 local credit unions and banks, right? So the competitive landscape out there the lending landscape out there is super competitive, right? Okay. So as a result, I can actually get the bank to cover 75% of the purchase price, 100% of the construction at 6 or 7% interest rate for a 5, 7, 10-year arm, right? So that allows me to avoid that debt situation because I can utilize these small local credit union portfolio loans to stabilize the asset and then refi my cash out and not be up against a time clock, right?
But you did adjustable with that lender, is what you said. So how often did that rate adjust? Did you get hammered by that at all? Because I know a lot of people have.
All of my debt is on 5, 7, 10 years, so it's on long enough.
Okay, so it doesn't adjust for 5, 7, or 10.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, I didn't know if it was like a rolling adjustment throughout that 5, 7, or 10 years. Got it. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, listen, first thing I said to you is I love Boston. I just don't love the politics, and it's because this tenant-friendly crap, and just don't love it. But if you're making it work, you're making it work, and that's fantastic. I mean, I love the area. I need to get up there again, love the history and the food and everything else. I was just telling you before we started recording. I'll share it with the team here. I remember there's a river that goes through Boston called the Charles River. If you see them scullers, the big long rowboats that they compete in. I remember seeing those, and literally 55 years ago, we used to fish in that river and catch eels with my brother because my dad lived up there. And there's a famous seafood chain up there called Legal Seafood. And I remember the first restaurant was in this sub-basement, and we sat on picnic tables, and I loved the fried fish that they had there. I just, brought back some memories thinking about Boston. There's that big building you go up to the top of. What is that? Prudential Building.
Yeah.
As well there. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Boston's a beautiful city.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so what's next for you, brother?
What is next, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing senior housing now. I'm super excited about that asset class.
Sure.
Are you sticking with residential and multifamily? Are you looking at anything else?
So, I think the way you really have exponential growth, in my opinion, is you find one successful formula that works for you and you lean into it, right?
Sure.
And that's exactly what I've been doing with these value add multifamily. We use the exact same business strategy over and over and over again. It's a rinse and repeat. So we're more or less leaning into that, right? So my goal over the next 5 to 10 years is I want to syndicate around 10,000 doors. I want to actively own 500 rental units because syndications are great, but they don't pay the bills to the end, right? I need some active income in the interim.
Right.
I want to help at least 10,000 people reach financial independence. Ultimately, I have reached financial independence, but I want to give back, and people help me along the way, so I definitely want to lend a hand that way.
And you do that through your meetup,
Yep,
and things like that. Yeah, no, that's a great attitude. And
just added to that, I've realized that the more value you provide to the world, the more the world will provide
that's
back.
That's the way.
Right?
That's the most successful people on the planet are the ones that add the most value.
Exactly.
Look at Bezos with Amazon.
Exactly.
I can buy this pen in 30
Sure.
seconds.
Sure.
Look at Elon with everything he's doing.
Sure.
Look at Apple with the iPhones. I mean, they whoever has the most value, and that's the way I run my organization as well. We're always trying to improve it and add more value. Yeah.
And I'll just give you a quick example. Like I flew down for this podcast, probably cost me $1,000.
Right.
I didn't ask for any money for that because I know I'm going to provide you value.
Well, you wouldn't have got it. Just so
well, I wouldn't have gotten it anyway. But my point is, I know I'm going to provide value to your audience, and I know one way or another, that value is going to come back to me in one way or another, right?
That's the way it works.
Yeah, but for somebody who doesn't have the abundance mindset, it has the scarcity mindset, they'd be like, oh, that's $1,000. Is it worth it to fly down for this podcast?
Well, it's funny. He's got a hat on that says Go Abundance, if you don't see it, which is an extraordinary mastermind group that I've been invited to numerous times that I really need to join. It's male specific typically, though, and it's men.
It is.
I think they have a woman chapter now. I think that came about recently, but it's a great mastermind that speaks to living in a place of abundance. In fact, I speak about this at my I literally just spoke about this 3 weeks ago at my Phoenix Warrior event, and how it's so easy to have a scarcity mindset, especially with AI and all the fear around jobs and all that. Look at Amazon, just 30,000 people getting laid off. I mean, that's some scary shit. But if you have an abundance mindset, you don't worry about that stuff. No. Before we start recording, I offered to come up and speak to your meetup in Boston, and it's the same frame of mind. It always comes back to you. When you add value, it comes back to you.
100%.
Yeah, so I love that. So let me ask you this. You're in the C-class market, and I know that demographic's getting its ass handed to it because of inflation, because of bills, living paycheck to paycheck.
Sure.
What's been that impact on you?
Totally.
I know it's hurt us with a couple of our assets. We've got one right now that's having a challenge because it's that asset class. So I didn't think it was, but it is. And so how's that impacted your business model?
Sure. Great question. So thankfully in Massachusetts, it actually has one of the strongest Section 8 programs in the nation.
Oh, you use Section 8. Good. Okay.
So about 40 to 50% of my portfolio is Section 8.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing about Section 8 is they actually pay above market a lot of times.
Right.
Right. And you get annual rent increases. And the tenant doesn't fight you because a lot of time that doesn't affect their payment. Their payment is typically a percentage of the money that they take in. But to your point, to the other 50% of my portfolio, we are seeing some softening, right? Yeah. We are seeing some people being
challenged.
Late on rent, right?
And
and ways we kind of work around that is, we'll let them out of the lease free, get them out of the unit. Maybe we'll offer them cash for keys to help facilitate them, right? But we do try to stay proactive, right? If we see people, falling behind a month, we try to stay on top of it and try to provide a win-win solution because I am in a tenant-friendly market to get them out in a manner that works for both of us so I can get the unit filled to a
How long does it take to
tenant.
get them out if they're not cooperating?
Great question. Typically in Massachusetts, it takes 3 to 6 months, right?
Jesus Christ.
But so
6 months.
Yeah. But it all depends. It all depends again the original court date. So it depends on the court system. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks to get a court date. Sometimes it takes 3 months, depending if it's Worcester or Boston. Boston obviously takes a while. Then once you get that court date, then typically it's like 1 to 2 months from that date, unless it's a tenant and they just put their foot down and they get
Yeah,
legal aid.
they can screw with you for sure. I had that happen. I had some assets in Memphis, and literally back then they were using a Chapter 13 bankruptcy to delay delay an eviction. It could take up to a year to get them out.
Yep.
You know, you're paying the mortgage payment and everything else. So it's good that you're proactive. Cash for keys is a great strategy.
Totally.
I've done it numerous times. Do you self-manage then?
Great question. So the money, at least in my market, is made in the management. I actually own a property management company with my partner, Zach Gray. We're 50-50 owners. And we self-manage about 450 doors. We have 25 employees.
Okay.
And the reason why we're so successful is we specifically focus on 3 to 20 unit buildings. And that's not by choice. That's strictly due to the fact that that's the stock.
That's what you have a lot of there. They call them 3 family. And then, of course, you got 20 unit. Yeah, right.
You're exactly correct. So, you know, in my particular market, a lot of the multis were constructed between 1880 and 1920 because those were mill towns. That's when workforce housing was created. And a lot of those structures are between 3 to 20 units, right?
Yeah, I remember living in one because my dad lived in Boston. It was a 3 family.
Sure.
We were on the top floor. Italian family owned it. Yeah, just funny. It's been triggering some memories for me.
And the magical thing about that specific asset class is private equity isn't going after it. And the reason for that, because they can't have on-site management. To manage a scattered site portfolio is extremely challenging and it's very labor intensive, right?
Well, sure. And of course, private equity is not really interested in assets that small either.
Exactly. It's not worth the return.
No, it's not.
Right. But it's worth it for me.
Sure.
Right.
It is. Oh, sure it is. No, you can kill it doing that.
Exactly. And the amazing thing about these smaller assets, which not many people talk about, it's like, you know, with a smaller asset, it's easier, like just like a smaller speedboat, it's easier to move the direction of it. So you could actually get the business plan completed way quicker than on a 100 to 200 unit portfolio. Like I could stabilize a 5 unit in 4 to 6 months versus a 100 to 200 unit building. It might take me 1 to 2 years, right?
No, that's exactly accurate. You know, back to your comment about Section 8, you know, it's interesting. When I was first in this business, Section 8, I tell you, the tenants could do anything. They could trash a place. They could not pay their rent. They could commit crimes, and they stayed on the program. Well, that's no longer the case. So you know, we call it housing, but housing quote / Section 8 is really a great program when you've got an asset that's struggling, or you've got a demographic that's struggling, like we just discussed. So good for you. So you love talking about motivation and mindset, right? You said you're a big Tony Robbins guy, and I shared with you, how much experience I've got with that guy for literally 23 years. Talk about what drives you. I mean, what have you done in that vein? Okay, besides read books, besides go abundance, obviously. Talk about that a little bit.
So, I honestly think the purpose of life is growth, right? Because when you stop growing, you wither away and die, right? And I really lean into that in all aspects of my life. For instance, this particular year, I went on a fitness journey where I lost 42 pounds.
Wow.
And I got second in a bodybuilding competition.
Good for you.
And that was through Go Abundance. That was a program through Go Abundance, right? But, I think many people forget on this journey to financial dependence, it's a grind, right? But like once you get there, you actually have to focus on the other buckets of your life. Otherwise, happiness will not follow you, right? Like, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people think is, happiness is found. In my opinion, happiness is created. I take intentional action every single day to create happiness with utilizing the Miracle Morning and morning routines, with working out, with giving back, with intentionally allocating times toward traveling, with intentionally allocating times with relationships and people I love, right? And I think when you take an intentional approach to incorporating each bucket of your life, you'll live a much happier life.
Oh, absolutely, no question. Yeah, I've had Hal Elrod on the show twice. He's super, super nice guy. What a story he has with his almost dying and all that. And travel's my favorite thing in the world. And candidly, if you're sitting here watching or listening to this, and you want to do more, you deserve more, your family deserves more, and you don't want to be in the same place you are right now, 1 or 2 years from now. You got to pay attention to your freaking health, because if you've got a W-2 job with kids, with church, with sports, you can absolutely do this on the side. There's no question, but you better be freaking healthy, because there's going to be late nights, early mornings. You're going to have energy, and health is energy.
Totally.
I'm 65. I worked out already this morning. I've got a cold plunge out by the water. I take more vitamins than you can possibly freaking imagine because I need all the freaking help I can get.
Yeah.
But that's, health is wealth, right? And
Totally.
and we have so many people that chase money at the expense of their health, and then they spend that money to try to regain that health, right?
Totally.
And that's not my quote, but it's factual. So besides, I totally agree with your comment about you can create happiness, and a lot of people think that the happiness comes from the goals, and they say the happiest days of a boat owner's life, the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat, right? Happiness comes from progress and growth, like you just said.
Totally.
You've got to be growing. If you're not growing, you are dying, and if you're not growing, you're not happy, because if you're progressing and growing and you acknowledge that progress, which I teach this in my when I teach a weekly planning process, you've got to pat yourself on the back, because you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have delays, you're going to get your ass handed to you on occasion. But if you're progressing and you're consciously aware of that progress and acknowledge that progress, you'll be happy regardless. Would you agree with that?
One of my favorite quotes by our good friend Tony Robbins.
Right.
Wealth is a spiritual game. And I absolutely love that quote, because that really exemplifies what I really truly think, where, your level of success, your level of growth is directly correlated to your level of personal development, right? And I truly, truly believe that.
Absolutely. No, there's no question about it. And I have this picture that I show at my boot camps where I've got lanyards around my neck and on my arms, hundreds of them, from boot camps, workshops, masterminds that I've gone to, because that growth has to be continual. I've always got coaches. I broke up with my ex. I've had 2 relationship coaches since then. I'm always getting coaching for something because I believe in it.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you do as well, mentors and coaching. And sometimes that mentorship comes from a book, but a lot of times it comes from a live person. And so what's the juice for you? I have a better question. What's your why? Are you married now? You in a relationship? No, still single. Okay.
I am single.
Okay.
I am single. Yes.
Oh, you said it like I'm single. Okay.
Well, my last name's Freed. All right. Okay. Like at a certain point, it's like,
oh, that's funny.
So yeah, ultimately, I think I just first of all, I just really feel like, I'm doing what I was meant to do. I'm living in my purpose. I'm living in my dharma. Me and my partner, we are good at this. We are really good at value add multifamily. We excel at this. So I just love doing it. And I also love helping other people reach financial independence. It's
just by mentorship or talking to them, having a call, whatever. Yeah.
Like nice. I do a bi-weekly mastermind with about 15 local investors. I help them along the path. I do my local meetup. I do podcasts, right? And that really fills up my cup a lot.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
So and then obviously I love traveling.
Because what you give, you receive, man. When you give of yourself like that, it comes back to you in spades. It has for me. Good God, I've got a wall in my other building here with hundreds of thank you cards.
At the end of the day, you and I have done these Tony Robbins events. You and I know at the end of the day, like what are we all really looking for? Love and connection, right? Like, and if we provide endless value, or if we really give all of ourselves to the world will love us back.
Oh yeah. No, I get literally love every single day. Cards, emails, DMs, gifts. I get hate too, because unless you get hate if you're successful, but a lot more love than hate, thank God. But yeah. So let me ask you this question, just to make you think a little bit. If you weren't in real estate, what other business might you be in?
If I wasn't in real estate, what other business might I be in?
Yeah.
It's a great question. I would probably still be working my W-2.
Yeah.
And I would.
You enjoy the project management?
I enjoyed the project management. I enjoyed helping people. What I did not enjoy was the claim on my time. That's what I did not enjoy.
No time freedom.
Exactly.
Got it. So I have a lot of listeners that know they want to get into this business. They know they're they're in the comfort zone, which we know nothing grows in. Absolutely. And or maybe they've got a W-2 job. It's okay, but they don't have time freedom. They don't have financial freedom. They don't have the ability to travel and whatnot. Speak to those people.
Absolutely. So, I've been where you're at, more or less. I've been there where, every single day feels like Groundhog Day, right? And you come home, you feel empty, you escape in the video games, you escape in the movies, you escape into anything you do to take that empty feeling away from you on the inside, right? But ultimately, the only way you're gonna escape that feeling is to take action towards your dream, right? You don't wanna be on your deathbed. You don't wanna be 70 years old regretting the life you wanna live, right? And I really came face to face with that. And I can tell you right now that if I died right now, I would die happy because I lived my true life.
No, that's awesome. You know, I tell the story about this nurse in Australia, hospice nurse. You've probably heard about her. Her name is Bronnie Ware, and she took care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked them if they had any regrets. And she wrote a bestseller, something like The Best Regrets of Dying, the 5 Biggest Regrets of Dying. And the number one regret was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're fearing failure, I call them seminars, as you know, if you listen to me. I built 29 businesses, several worth a lot of money, most spectacular flaming seminars, okay? And, you know, you fail your way to success. Don't fear that. Fear regret. Would you agree with me?
Even further, I would say fear the status quo, right? Like people forget and people don't realize status quo, doing nothing, is an action, right? Like just if you played a video game and it's a turn-based game, right? And it comes to your turn and you decide to do nothing, right? Your opponent is gonna get advance on you, right?
Doing nothing is action.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I think people have to come to realize like doing nothing is action. And are you gonna make a change, or are you just gonna continue with the status quo? Ultimately, is the status quo where you want your life to be? If it is, great. If not, it's time to make a change. If you're
happy with the status quo, if you're happy, truly happy, and content and satisfied and fulfilled, fuck it. Why change? Exactly. But if you're not, by God, don't wait.
Agreed.
I mean, there's incredible opportunity upon us right now with the current economic situation, with you know, assets that did get adjustable rate debt that are struggling, with expenses going up that operators can't deal with, and there's incredible opportunity coming. And even outside of real estate, buying businesses. I mean, if there was more than one of me, one would be buying businesses. There's 10,000 people a day turning 65 that want to retire that own businesses, right?
Sure.
You know, so let me ask you this: with what you're doing now, what's the most challenging part of what you do right now?
That's a great question. So I started my company in 2023, and we went from 0 to 25 employees.
Well, so I was going to ask you that. What comprises those 25 people? Just before you move on to the challenging part of the role, what's
sure.
I think it's the same answer when you mention 25 people. It's the people.
Sure. So this is my property management company. They also play a role in my syndication company as well.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I think we have about 5 or 6 property managers. I have a director of strategy. I have a controller. I have some painters, some maintenance techs, and I have a middle level manager. And I have a bunch of VAs in the Philippines, virtual assistants in the Philippines.
Okay. But you have 5 people in your as like regional managers or
as property managers.
Property managers?
Yes.
That's a lot for 400 units.
It is a lot. However, we buy value add properties that we have to stabilize, and we buy a lot of them.
So the managers are involved in the capex. They're involved in other things besides just managing tenants.
The stabilization.
Okay,
exactly
gotcha.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Now that makes sense then. Okay, it still seems like a lot for that, but
it is, right. Okay. But I think we have to come back to the thought process of like managing a scattered site portfolio takes a lot of effort to actually manage it effectively.
Oh,
right?
I mean, listen, I had 800 houses. I've had my own management company for decades. So I
can only imagine.
Yeah, but I didn't have 25 people though. I had less than that, believe it or not. So that's why I'm kind of surprised by the number. But anyway.
So that's my biggest challenge. But I think to your point, my biggest challenge is hiring talent, right? Yeah. And keeping talent in place, right? So, and I just want to provide value to your audience. And one of the main game changers for me was incorporating personality tests into the hiring process.
Good
Specifically, idea. I use this tool called the Cultural Index, right? And the magical thing about this thing is it asks the person, what are your strengths? So it asks them what their strengths are. And then it asks them, what are your strengths? How are your strengths reflected in the workplace, right? And it shows you 2 separate graphs, right? And if somebody's sitting in their genius, both graphs will match, right? And if they don't, then you could see areas of improvements, or maybe you change their responsibilities so they are sitting in their genius. Ultimately, if your employee is sitting in your genius, 1 + 1 = 10. right? So more or less, I utilize this personality test to get the correct archetype up front. I may get 100 applicants. I might get 5 of the archetype. At that point, I interview the 5. I get the top one, and then I'll do test projects for maybe the top 3, and I'll hire based off that. And I have an absolute team of freaking killers, man. Yeah. My team are absolute all-stars, and they could run my business without me even being there.
Yeah, that's really great strategy. And you know, the other piece of that is I've had, you know, I've owned large companies is maintaining a culture that of empowerment, of validation, of growth, of education, to keep these people, you know, I'm revisiting all that right now with this whole senior housing piece, because, you know, those people aren't paid the best and they're taking care of grandma, and they need to take good care of grandma. And so if they're not validated, empowered, and you know, praised and educated and whatnot, you know, you'll have problems. And so that's what I look for in the operator that I aligned with. You know, I want you to share a war story, because, you know, people learn so much from when people get their asses handed to them. You know, I mean, I talk about losing $50 million in 2008, but talk about a time you got your butt kicked in the lesson, if you could.
Sure. So after that first syndication I did in New Bedford, I felt like I was hot stuff, right? I felt like I knew what I was doing, right? And I had this amazing opportunity come across my desk, a 32 unit in Lancaster, South Carolina, right? Oh. We got about 60, 65 a door. They rented for $1,000. It's 1980s construction.
Cool. Yeah.
It made sense all day.
Sounds good, yeah.
Right? Then we got it for like, yeah. So, you know, we closed on the property, right? We went through the stabilization process. We came to realize that, you know, it's very hard to utilize a third-party property manager. We went through 3 property managers, right? It was a 32 unit building. We turned 26 of the 32 units in like a year.
Wow.
Right? We had a ton of freaking vacancy, right? Combined with that, I think the taxes doubled. The insurance doubled, right? We got attacked from all fronts, right? We ended up being able to refi out. By the way, we bought it at the highest point of interest. I think we bought it at 8% interest, like the highest point from a commercial lender. So all factors are going against it, right? We ended up being able to refi, you know, get our capital out, get the interest rate down to a 5.75. The property's cash flowing nice, but ultimately the ARV probably came in 200 to 300K below within our underwriting. So right now, I think we're giving our investors a 10% return on the money, which is great, but the exit is not quite where we projected due to all the increased expenses hurting the NOI.
You probably had to suspend pref for a while and things of that nature. Yeah,
we did.
And you got to catch that up.
We did get caught up, but to your point, we did delay it for quite some time. Yeah, you're exactly correct.
Yeah, well, there was a piece of that I was going to drill down on with you. But yeah, third-party property management companies. Oh my God, dude, I'm dealing with, theft, with blatant lying, withholding information. Man. I just switched management companies on one of my assets, and we thought there were no aged payables, that we were tied into their accounting system. We got rid of them, and we found $250,000 in bills they hadn't paid. You know, we found code violations in the manager's drawer that caused us to get put on this onerous inspection program. I mean, just horrible management, you know, really bad situation in my San Antonio asset. And not good. But so, you know, when you talk to aspiring investors that come to, or operators, wannabe operators that come to your meetups and stuff like that, is there a book besides Rich Dad Poor Dad that you like to gift to them or suggest to them more than another?
So, you know, I think the easiest path for a lot of new investors is the house hack. You know, owner occupier, 3 to 4 unit property, low.
My daughter just did it. She literally just closed on a freaking triplex. Sorry to interrupt, but I got excited because literally she just closed 3 weeks ago. She's already got it painted. She's all excited. Yeah, good for her. Yeah, anyway.
Right. So I think the easiest way, entry point, and the lowest risk strategy is get a house hack, get a 3 to 4 unit with 3.5%, 5% down loan. Right. I think that's the easiest way. And honestly, it's more or less a, it's more or less a crutch to learn how to be a landlord.
No, it's absolutely no. I mean, it's a smart way to learn how to be a landlord.
Yep.
You're trial by fire.
And then what's great about that is people hate on the fact that they have a W-2, but people seem to forget that is a tool to get loans, right?
Right.
So when I first got in real estate, I utilized that tool to get 4 house hacks under my belt in 3 years. And I got 12 units with $100,000 because of the low down payment house hack, right? So I would implore everybody to get a house hack, right? But not only that, I would also implore them to get a house hack in a high concentration multifamily market where there's a lot of asset class. We can start clustering your investments so you could house hack, you know, you can get 3 or 4 house hacks in a mere 3 or 4 years in the same exact market, right? So that's what I would absolutely implore people to do. Very low risk strategy to start building some assets, right? And prior to leaving that house hack, I do want to mention it's very important to look into maybe getting a HELOC. You can actually get a HELOC on your primary residence up to 100% leverage, right? So if you house hack a property with a low down payment loan, and then you get a HELOC up to 100%, you could actually suck that equity out to buy more property before you leave.
With the caveat that you don't over leverage.
You don't get a negative cash flowing asset for sure, right?
Don't over leverage.
Exactly. Like, so if you are using that HELOC to buy another asset, you have to ensure that asset's cash flow supports the debt from that HELOC, right? Arbitrage. And then some. And then some. Yep, exactly. The concept of arbitrage. You're exactly, I 100% agree with what you're saying.
Okay, yeah. You want to be careful with that.
Totally.
So here's a question.
Sure.
You know, you're a motivated, driven guy. If you could teach school children one thing for an hour each week that they're not being taught, what might that be?
I would say that life is an iterative process, right? To think perfection is real is a false belief, right? And the truly successful people learn how to create, iterate, and they skew towards action versus skew towards a perfect result.
Yeah. Perfection's the lowest standard because it's unattainable. Exactly. Good answer. Yeah. So, you know, did you have to cut any things out of your life and on this road to success? You know, you're single. So, I mean, maybe, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe relationship. I don't know. Maybe you just enjoy being single.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you bring up a lot of good points. I mean, during my financial freedom journey, I just cut out relationships altogether. I just went full into finances and reaching financial independence.
Right.
You know, now I'm at that point where I discussed where I'm more focused on other buckets right now, my fitness bucket, relationship bucket. So I am leaning into that now that I've reached financial independence. But, you know, there's no going around it, right? If you are trying to reach financial independence in 3 to 5 years, like you have to, in the short term, you have to give up time in certain buckets to go all
Netflix,
into that.
You know, TikTok, you know, you just have to.
I mean, I was a big video gamer. I stopped video gaming. I watch movies. I don't watch movies anymore. Like, I honestly, rather than choosing negative vices, I actually, because I have an addictive personality, I skewed that towards positive vices. Like, so, you know, I'm going to the gym. Now I go to the gym constantly, right? Like, so things like that. I try to skew it towards healthy vices because ultimately we all need vices, right? So, but, you know, I'd rather be good versus bad.
I agree. No,
right?
I agree completely. Why do you think people give up? I'm asking you more evolved questions just because you've spent time with Tony. You're in GoBundance. You're working on yourself. So these are questions I don't usually ask, but you can give. I know you can give competent answers. So why do you think people give up?
I think people give up because of fear.
Yeah.
You know, they fear the unknown. They fear. It comes from a place of childhood drama that they have yet to reconcile, that they have to reconcile. So they have the confidence and belief in their self to take the leap. Because ultimately it all just comes back to confidence in yourself to take the leap. And if you don't believe in yourself, typically that's through fear of childhood trauma or things you have to reconcile. Then at that point you can really excel. Like, I'll tell you right now, during this journey, I did reconcile a lot of my childhood trauma and my fear. And now I don't have any of that. And that really allows me to, rather than focus on that rumination of my past life, now I can really focus on creating the future that I want.
Oh, what a great answer, brother. I'm so glad I asked you that. You know, and that resonates with me, of course, as well, because because of childhood trauma, I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? You know, now that was a double-edged sword. That actually caused me to be a big success, but it also cost me my first family, you know, because I was so focused on proving that I was good enough. But a lot of people have these limiting beliefs, you know, I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. And there's a reason the belief system, the acronym for belief systems is BS. Because 99% of them are BS, but we believe they're real and they affect our lives. Some people never get past them. you know? So if you're listening and you've got one of these BS, limiting beliefs, drag it out into the daylight. Look at it with your adult rational mind. Recognize that it's BS, and it'll dissipate. I used to be afraid to raise my hand in front of 10 kids in a classroom, and now I speak in front of thousands a year in freaking flip-flops, So, you agree with me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes, thought is the coin of heaven.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you about if you had any quotes that you liked. Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of Tony quotes, live with passion and, and quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of discomfort you can take. But I like yours. Yeah.
So the reason why I say is because everything stems from thought, right?
Right.
And if you take an intentional approach to where your thoughts go, you can create any life that you want, right? And I think people fail to realize that the rabbit hole their mind goes down to waste hours and hours and hours of time ruminating on things they have absolutely no control over.
Yeah, it's so common too. Yep.
Sure.
So you're obviously a leader. You had to embrace being a leader.
I did.
Right? You've got a partner, but you're leading a group of people. What do you think the most important characteristic or characteristics that a leader should possess?
I'll just give you one that came to the top of my mind.
Okay.
And that is more or less, you really can't sweat over the small stuff, right?
Right.
So I think people tend to forget, when times are good, people tend to get greedy. Right. So there's sort of situations, I have a 50-50 partner where, maybe in one deal or another, he makes 5 or 10 grand more than me. Like the small-minded person would ruminate on that, create friction among the partnership and potentially end it during a time of success. I know with my partner, we're making millions and millions of dollars every single year. Why am I going to triple for 5 or 10 grand when I know our long-term potential together is limitless? Right.
What about not just your partner? What about your employees? What do you think is an important characteristic that a leader should embody with their team?
Figured out attitude. Figured out attitude. And that's
so don't let them put the monkey on your back.
Exactly. If you're gonna bring an issue to me, come with 3 solutions.
Got it. No, that's great advice. That's great advice. I would add integrity, of course.
Totally, of course.
That's our number one core value.
Sure.
But yeah, no, that's good. No, you when you bring me a problem, bring me 3 possible solutions. I love that because otherwise it gets dumped on you, and you train them to think for themselves and handle what comes up. And that's why when you said, you could probably let them run the business, you're probably right. If that's how you've adopted the strategy, then I'm sure you're right.
And I love providing endless value to your audience. So I'm going to provide you another tip.
Okay.
One really big tip to allow me to scale was when you do your to-do list, don't ask yourself, how I can do this to-do list, ask who can do this to-do list.
Love it.
Right? So when you do your to-do list, go down the list and see who you can delegate these items to. And I do that every single morning, right?
Yeah.
So I create my to-do list, I delegate it, it gets done for me, I check it in at the end of the day, and lo and behold, all my items are done.
Yeah.
Right.
I literally have my assistant with my cell phone, which I'm having withdrawals over, texting people for me right now that need to be texted in this investor group. So that resonates with me as well. Well, listen, brother, I appreciate you coming down here. This has been a real treat. And, you're a freaking rock star and making things happen. And I'm certain that you're going to hit whatever goals you set. 10,000 units, it's 10,000 units. So, but it's a pleasure to meet you, my friend.
Thank you. It's a true honor to meet you as well.
No,
Thank you so much.
That's very kind of you to say that.